We're going to go ahead and start this special Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I'm going to go ahead and recognize that Kathy Thomas, Board Member Thomas, is not going to be able to join us tonight. She's under the weather, so we pray for a quick recovery for her. After we approve the agenda, I'm going to ask Ms. Stacy to come up and introduce herself because we've got a brand new leader at the helm. So let's go ahead and approve the agenda, and we'll get the pledge, and then Scott Walker will be here probably by the time we get through that. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Naeem, a second. So you just got to be quicker, right? Just jump right in. A second from Mr. Long. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes 4-0 with Board Member Thomas absent. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Ms. Stacy, come on up to the podium and introduce yourself. She's been here for a short while, but we've already had lots of meetings and lots of interactions. We're very excited to have you on the team.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here. My name is Stacy Hectus. I started a little over a month ago. I come from your neighbor, Levy County. I was there for about 3 years, and prior to that, I worked almost 10 or 11 years in Winter Park. After that, went on maternity leave and ended up here. So I have over 18 years of experience in planning and zoning in some form, shape, or fashion. So I really look forward to working with all of you, and I'm excited to be here in Newberry.
Welcome, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Stacy was presenting to the commission last night about big box concepts, and she already won my heart. She said, we're going to have lots of pictures. I said, that's exactly what we need when we have these conversations. Yes. Lots of pictures, so we know exactly we want this, we don't want that. Because I don't speak planner speak after all these years of how to make it look like that. I just know that's what I want, and I don't know how to make it that way. So,
well, our job's to put the words in.
Yeah, and we appreciate that.
You take the pictures and make words.
Yeah.
So that's what we're here for.
All right. Thank you so much. So we're going to hope that Scott gets here before we go into quasi-judicial. So if you want to very slowly make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we want to move some things around then in the meantime?
Well,
We can move the
that's what I'm thinking, moving the 4 forward.
Yeah, I mean, 4 is the only one that's legislative.
Yeah. And can we do 4 before 3, or as they go together? That's good? We can't do 4 before 3?
5 is quasi-judicial.
Okay. All right. So if Scott's not here by the time, we're going to move item 4 to item 2, and we're just going to swap so that we have a lawyer here once we go into quasi-judicial. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published? I have a motion from Naeem, second from Ms. Parker down there. Oh, sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. John Paul, or whoever has item 4, could you read ordinance 2024-20/CPA 2407 into the record for us, please?
Wait, what?
Let me make a note on this. We're moving item 4 to number 2
And just bringing everything else down.
and bringing everything else up. Ms. Uma, do you have that by title only?
Yes.
Okay, can you read that in the record for us, please?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. First, I will read the ordinance. Oh, sorry. I think I have it wrong.
That's all right.
Page 147, I think. Yeah, 120. Yeah.
See if you had it, I was going to read it.
Sorry
There we
about
go.
that.
No
Good
worries.
evening, and I will read the ordinance as it goes. Ordinance number 2024-20 CPA 2407, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 as amended relating to an amendment to the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry comprehensive plan of 4.76 acre of land under the small scale development amendment procedures established under the small scale amendment provision of section 163.3187 Florida statute as amended, providing for a change in a land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture less than or equal to one dwelling unit per 5 acre to City of Newberry agriculture less than or equal to one dwelling unit per 5 acre on certain land within the incorporated limit of City of Newberry, Florida, parcel number 01925-010-000, consisting of approximately 4.76 continuous acre, providing severity, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
And are
you.
you taking us through the presentation as well? Jump right in.
Oh, yes. That's okay. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This is Uma Sarmishta, Planning and Economic Development and Development Department. Ordinance 2024-20 for future land use map amendment from County Rural Agriculture to City of Newberry Agriculture on 4.76 acre land. No, it's off. Thank you. Amendment, future land use map classification on a recently annexed parcel from Alachua County Rural Agriculture to City of Newberry Agriculture. It's a like-to-like future land use map amendment. The parcel was annexed on July 22nd, 2024. This is the approx location of the area. It was under incorporated land, and now we have annexed it. So parcel number is 01925-010-000. I'm sorry, the parcel number is written wrong up there, but I will correct it for the next one. The petitioner is Jamie Nelson. It's like-to-like future land use map amendment. It's a which require one planning and zoning board hearing and two city commissioner hearing. It's a small scale change, so we are transmitting to Department of Commerce after adoption and enactment. And future land use map amendment is a legislative, so we will not go for the quasi judicial, and it will follow the rezoning also. Staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry comprehensive plan and land development regulation. I'm here if you have any question.
Okay,
Thank you. And we recommend approval of 2024-20 CPA 2407. If approved, the petition will be heard on September 9, 2024 by the City Commission.
Thank you so much. Board have any questions? Always welcome annexations, fill in those enclaves, complete our city. All right, I'll have a motion then.
So moved.
Okay, a motion from 90 and then A.
I was waiting for one of you guys to jump in.
And I have a second for Board Member Parker. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the board? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. It's going to take us to new item 3, which is Whittle's Mini Storage Site and Development Plan. We're going to be entering into a quasi-judicial, so I need to read the quasi-judicial proceedings procedure. This means the board is going to stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board. That means we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule must follow concerns testimony. The substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony will be taken under oath. Everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents used will be entered evidence, and the giving opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record. Mr. Attorney, would you please at this time read into the record resolution 2024-31, please.
Sir, if my computer will stop freezing,
It's all right, we've had some delays, but at least it's not as cold as it was last night in here.
Mr. Mayor, this is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site development plan for an additional 30,000 square foot self-storage facility use within the Industrial I zoning district pursuant to Section 14.12 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, located at 27240 West Newberry Road, Letcher County Tax Parcel Number 02512-001-00016, consisting of approximately 31 acres, lying within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is passed resolution 2024-31 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have about 8 quasi-judicials on tonight. So if you're here to speak to any quasi-judicial, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to stand, and we're going to get everyone sworn in for the whole night, all at one time, and staff's going to help me make sure I don't miss anybody walking into the room. Mr. Attorney, would you please swear everybody in?
Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Very good. When you come to the podium, if you give your name for the record, so we can take that down.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Attorney.
Thank you.
Before we begin, we need to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are conversations or any transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. And let's go ahead and do ex parte for all the quasi-judicials tonight. If there's any conversation you had, if you visited anything you want to go ahead and ask the attorney about, let's get it out of the way now. Board Member Parker? Board Member Polar? Board Member Long? Board Member Richard? I'm a non-voting chair, but I have nothing to disclose as well. I'm now going to explain the order of presentation we're going to follow for every quasi-judicial item tonight. If no one new enters the chamber, I'll only have to read this one time. If someone new enters the chamber, then I have to do this all over again. So we're going to begin with a staff overview. Then the applicant has the opportunity to make a presentation, no time limit. Then we're going to hear from the staff report and their recommendation, also with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status for any of the items before us tonight, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to any agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant can cross-examine, staff and cross-examine members to make a body can ask questions through the chair. Final argument made by the applicant and then the staff. Then the attorney will advise to make advice, put the law and factual findings must be made to approve or deny the application. We'll deliberate. After deliberation, we'll have a motion to approve, deny, or continue. John Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Paul Perez with the Community Development Department. Before I get into the presentation, there was some communications received from Paul Hornsby. I just want to make sure that all board members received it. If you did not, I have a hard copy of it here. It looks like everybody received it, so I'll continue with the presentation, and I'm available after the presentation to address any of the concerns that Paul Hornsby raised in his email. So the request before the board tonight is a site plan request for Whittles Mini Storage. That's an existing mini storage off of State Road 26. Our recommendation is to recommend approval to the Board of Adjustment. And if this petition moves forward with a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment, it's the intent of staff to have this heard at the September 23rd, which is a Monday, regular Board of Adjustment hearing starting at 7 p.m. Here you can see where the subject property is located on the west side of the city's downtown. On the north side of State Road 26, it's about, I think, like a quarter of a mile west of the intersection of 337 and State Road 26. The agent is Gamir Engineering. They're here. They have not prepared a presentation, so in that part of the procedures, we'll skip past that, but they're available for any questions should any arise. Owners, Whittles Mini Storage LLC. Zoning is industrial, land use is industrial. Here's an aerial image of the subject property, and in the white dashed outline is the project area on the property. It's a very large property, but only a small portion of it, which is the street frontage portion, is the self-storage. There's 3 buildings out there currently. On the east side of the access drive in the property, there are 4,500 feet each, and on the west side is 3,100 feet. Here's a closer up image of the existing. If you've driven by the property recently, they're clearing some of the pine out of there already, so there is some dirt being moved around, and they do have to do stormwater because of the impervious area, so part of that clearing is related to the stormwater as well. This is a list of the existing uses. There are 3 homes on the property currently and 3 buildings for storage use. They're proposing 3 more storage buildings. Each storage building will be 10,000 square feet each, so a total of 30,000 being added there for a total of, should be 42,100 square feet of self-storage use on the property.
What's the current one that's there?
Question is about the current size.
Just real quick, what's the current size that they have compared to what they're asking for?
So currently, it's 12,100 square feet of self-storage on the property.
For each one?
No, so each building, going back to this
Right.
image here, yeah. On the left side of that access drive, that building is 3,100 square feet, and then the 2 on the right side are 4,500 square feet each, according to the property appraiser. This is an image of the site plan that's being contemplated by the board tonight. Complies with all land use regulations and zoning regulations. This is in the overlay, but because this is an existing use, they don't need to do the additional landscape improvements. That was a little carve-out that was included in that particular section of code. In addition, they are separated from State Road 26 by a CSX right-of-way. So there's probably about 75 feet or 100 feet there between the 2. And so you'll see that there are improvements in the right-of-way. There's a gap there. So they're improving or paving the access driveway, apron area, and then also the new parts on the interior. This is a closer image of the access drive, so you can see the level of improvements that are occurring there. Again, CSX, they only have rights to cross, not to improve. These are the 3 new buildings, each of them being 10,000 square feet each. They are providing parking along the south side, so left is north. And then at the northwest part, the little red square is a dumpster that's being provided, so it's way back, won't be visible from the right-of-way. And in blue is the stormwater basins that they'll be putting in. So Chris Gamir is here to answer any questions, should you guys have any. Should I continue with our findings and recommendations?
If he doesn't have a presentation, go ahead and move to your
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
recommendation.
So these are the criteria utilized when evaluating the site plan for satisfying the minimum requirements and criteria that the city has set forth for applications such as this. We've found that they've satisfied all those criteria. One of the email from Paul Hornsby talks about traffic, so I just wanted to take a moment to talk about that, because self-storage, while it's an industrial use, it's a very mild industrial use. It doesn't get regular traffic throughout the day like a business. There are not people that work there, and it's usually in off hours that they receive a majority of their traffic, similar to a church or any other off-peak hour use. And so the additional 30,000 square feet sounds like a lot of additional square footage, and it sounds like a lot of additional trips that are going to be added to that section of road. But the reality is that the homes that are there now generate more trips than the actual self-storage that's there. The additional self-storage that they're adding is an additional 5 p.m. peak hour trips per the ITE 10, which is what I have access to. And so the total trips that they'll be generating, residential 3 and then 7 from the self-storage for PM peak hour. That's between Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So that's when the road gets congested generally. And so we do find it consistent with the land development regulations and the comprehensive plan, and we are recommending the board forward a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, thank you, sir. I know you don't have a presentation. Will you come up to the mic and just for the record state that you don't have any objections to the presentation which is given?
Exactly correct. My name is Chris Gamir. I'm the agent for the applicant, civil engineer for the project. I'm available if you have any questions, and I have no objections to the information provided. And let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you so much. It's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this? I don't have 3 minutes to do so. Go ahead and queue up.
Hi,
Howdy,
Joy
stranger.
Glanzer. Hi. So, they've been my neighbor for 36 years, wonderful, wonderful neighbors, and so I'm so happy they're expanding. And my question is as long as we can be sensitive to light, noise, and, shrubs and landscaping that would, because my home is right behind theirs, that would be great for you to consider that. But I'm happy that they're expanding, but just to be sensitive to those things. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Great comments. Other public comment? Seeing none, it's going to move us to, did you hear everything you want to cross-examine? Assuming not, since you didn't object. No cross-examination?
No problem.
And staff, you're not going to cross-examine yourself? So we'll go to the body questions from the board. Board Member Pollard.
Thank you. Is this storage facility, are all three of the, what I'm looking at, it looks like these are outside accessible with an interior hallway? Am I reading these incorrectly?
No, you're
That's
correct.
correct.
Yeah, it looks like there's both interior and exterior access, similar to town center storage.
Okay. My question is there outdoor storage for boats and RVs, campers, things like that, or is this all enclosed storage?
Great question. So that wasn't identified on the site plan that there'd be additional outdoor storage, but I'll defer to Chris since he has,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, there hasn't been historically necessarily the kind of business they're in. They're doing enclosed storage. That's what they've been doing, and that's what we're proposing. Especially with the online sort of systems, it's nice to assign them a specific rental unit with access to that unit, and so that they're going to continue that same use on the site.
Thank you. The reason I ran a storage facility for 5-6 years, and I was concerned that there would be a lot of traffic, like out on 26, getting in and like with the boats and the.
Yeah, I think the
whatnot.
biggest thing is look at their existing facility. They don't have outdoor storage as their typical business model.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Other board member questions? Is your microphone on?
Probably a stupid question, but to build
No
off
such
Ms.
thing.
Glanzer, is there different rules to the hours allowed for construction if it's industrial versus like in a residential area?
I don't think so.
No, there's like our nuisance ordinance for sound and which establishes our periods of construction. It's universal, agnostic across the board for periods for construction. Great
John
question.
Paul, before you leave the podium.
Yes, sir.
We've had various degrees of success with getting our dark skies ordinance blanketed across the city. And so,
Yes.
and I know to go complete dark skies is like astronomically more expensive. So we've done everything that we can do to be dark skies like.
Yes,
Is
sir.
the applicant aware of that desire upon this board and the commission or the Board of Adjustment to get as close to dark skies? Because I think that, especially in that area, is still kind of rural.
Yeah.
We don't want the lights pointing. We just want get the frames on the lights, pointing the lights down, keep the light where it's going, don't let it go up, those kinds of things.
So because the buildings are prefab, the details of the building were limited on the site plan, and the conversation of lighting didn't come up. It would be
That's why
my
we have the meetings.
Yes. It would be my suggestion that the Planning and Zoning Board include a condition requiring dark sky friendly lighting is the term we've adopted. So it just needs to have fully shielded lights, and they need to be of a certain temperature.
And I see the applicant saying yes, nodding yes behind. So
Yeah,
we'll make sure it's part of the motion, but
Mr. Chair, there's no issue with that. I don't know why we had exposed bulbs 20 years ago and just
Yeah.
blowing out light everywhere. I mean, this is mainly just for security purposes,
Yeah.
building mounted. There's no parking lots people going to. It's mainly so that the cameras can see if there's any security concern out here. So that should be not a problem at all.
okay, wonderful.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question, please. You said these are prefab buildings. Are these pre-engineered metal buildings? And if so, are they being, like, do we have a manufacturer for those yet?
yeah.
I'm just a poor civil engineer. I don't know much about the buildings themselves. Yes, I don't know.
Okay, my curiosity was for construction delivery.
Sure.
And what that was going to be
I
like.
just know
and what
many
the
of
impact
them
that was gonna
have
be.
specialized manufacturers, not your normal pre-engineered metal building manufacturers. It's sort of storage facilities have unique vendors to supply them. And again, that's above my, when it comes to the building, I don't know much about specifically how they
Don't
get
buy
built.
it for a second, Chris.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you.
I have a question.
From
On
our
the stormwater drainage, are we planting any more trees around the area for buffering?
So we're following the City of Newberry's stormwater management code for that, and there's not much involved with planting around the stormwater management facility per the City of Newberry code, but it is very central to the site, so the existing buffers will stay around the perimeter area, and so it's really just a pond for the center of the site. And the reason why it's sort of so large is because we're sort of at the bottom of the hill of the basin, so we're having to hold 100% of our water in that stormwater pond and soak all of it into the ground. We're doing that with 4-to-1 slopes. Hopefully it's, it looks like a pasture area versus necessarily a hole in the ground, if you will.
Any more questions? No? Would you like to make a final argument? Would you like to make a final argument? You don't have to. But...
We appreciate your review, and these comments were great. Glad to answer questions the board has.
Okay, thank you. Staff, would you like to make a final comment? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Attorney, would you please advise us to make advice, applicable all factual findings?
Substantial and competent evidence.
Thank you. And that's going to be the advice for all the quasi-judicial tonight, so I won't have to ask them that again. Okay, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, or no more deliberations, I will have a motion. Okay, I have a motion from Board Member Parker.
Second.
I have a second from Board Member Long. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions, motion on the floor. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We are going to move to the next quasi-judicial, which is new item 4. This is the O2B Kids Site and Development Plan. We have no new people that have entered, so we're still in quasi-judicial. We've already sworn everybody in. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2024-14 into the record?
The resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, serving as the Board of Adjustment of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving an application for site and development plan for the construction of an approximately 11,060 square foot daycare facility in a commercial intensive CI zoning district pursuant to Section 14.12 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, located generally at east of US 41 State Road 45 and north of Newberry Lane, identified as a portion of parcel number 01902000000 on 3.9 plus acres within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2024-14 SDP 24-04 for recommendation for approval by the City Commission of the City of Newberry.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir.
It occurs to me that we did not put in the last motion for the dark skies friendly. Did we accept that into the record, though? The applicant didn't? Or do we need to go back and do that?
I think you can accept that into the record.
He didn't object, so I think we can accept that.
Incorporated it.
Okay, thank you, sir. So now we'll move us to the staff overview. If the applicant does not have a presentation, you can move right into the staff report and recommendation, Ms. Susan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. Uma Sarmishta, Senior Planner, Planning of Development. Before I start my presentation, there was a concerned citizen letter which is in the agenda packet. I hope board member have received it, and if there is any concern, we can discuss that after the presentation. Yes.
The letter?
Yes, there is a letter in the agenda packet.
In the back of the packet
In the back of that item.
of that agenda item,
Yes, I do.
do you have a page number?
No.
No? It's a pretty thick packet.
I know, I have a copy if they want.
Here it is, it's page 121.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So should I start?
Just hang on one second. Let's make sure everybody has it and just give them 30 seconds to kind of skim over that.
It's a pretty thick agenda packet today.
Scott, since we're in quasi judicial, do I need to read this letter for the, into the?
I think you can just add it to the record.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, go ahead and slowly get started while they finish
Okay.
perusing.
Okay, so here I am to present Resolution 2024-14 SDB 2404, Site and Development Plan for the Child Care Facility O2B. This is on a portion of parcel number 01902-000-000. The total parcel is around 3.96 acre. Project name is O2B KID. Petition is RWM Newberry LLC. The agent is CHW. The future land use of the property is commercial and the zoning district commercial intensive. This is the aerial picture of where the location will be. This is a portion of the total parcel. Again, few more pictures just defining where exactly the location is. This is again, the request is for site and development plan for child care facility, O2B kids, that include approximately 11,060 square feet of facility with improved infrastructure. Proposed area of development is around 1.86 acre. The total student capacity there will be 193 students, and they are proposing a total parking of 37. That is according to our code. We have applicant here from CHW, but they don't have any application. They don't have any presentation. They are here for any questions. If mayor and the board agree, I can go ahead or
Move right along.
okay. So for any site and development plan criteria, we go with the ownership control, density, intensity, traffic, parking, screening, stormwater, sanitary sewers, utility, recreational facility, open space, and amenities. And staff did review all these part of the civil plan. And this is the proposed civil plan with, there is like a building of 11,060 square feet. There's a stormwater basin in behind. They have a play area behind, and then the parking up front. This is again some proposed building finished elevations and how it will be looking. The north side is this way in this. This is a tilted picture. This is the proposed architectural elevations. So this will look like a typical O2B, and it will have all those purple and golden color in there. These are the proposed landscape. I know that the area is full of trees right now. They are cutting down few trees, but they are following our code and planting lot of trees around. They are taking away only the trees which cannot be part of the proposed site. They did the traffic study with the Highland Park and the Publix, and this is actually their traffic statement. So according to the net traffic generation will be, AM peak will be 68 and PM peak will be 69. This is based on the trip generation manual 11th edition, which is the latest one. So, condition for approval prior to insurance of the building permit, provide the photometric plan with the dark light-friendly light. Prior to the site plan approval, provide the documentation of recording of the lot split, because this is a part of the bigger lot there, with the Alachua County property appraisal, and the traffic study has been already incorporated with the Highland Park traffic study. With that, staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry Land Development Regulation and Comprehensive Plan, and recommend to the Board of Adjustment to approve Resolution 2024-14 SDB 2404. If the petition is approved, it will be heard by Board of Adjustment on September 9, 2024.
Okay, thank you. I understand CHW doesn't have a presentation. Would you come up to the microphone and just acknowledge for the record that you have no objection to the presentation that was given?
Good evening, Board. I'm Walker Owen with CHW. We appreciate staff's presentation this evening. They've been great to work with, and we agree with the presentation.
Wonderful. Always like to hear what we've been great to work with. All right, thank you, sir. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. We gotta get a bigger, taller microphone. We got too many tall people from CHW. They can't get down to those microphones.
You have to be 6'5" to work at CHW.
I think so, yeah. They probably they're fielding a basketball team somewhere we don't know about. Any members of the public wishes to speak to this agenda item? Seeing none, that's gonna take us to cross-examination. Don't wanna cross-examine, don't wanna cross-examine. Members, decision-making body, questions of the applicant or staff? Board
Okay,
Member Parker.
I have a question. So the stormwater drainage, there's already a very large stormwater basin there. Is this the same one, or are they redoing something?
So we did ask about that question, and they said they are using this as a temporary basin and did not allocate any impervious area out of this project, so they will have a stormwater inside the site too.
So
correct,
there'll be two of them back to back, is that? Yeah, you might as well just, yeah.
That's correct. There will be two basins next to each other. The existing basin does not provide treatment for this property. It was constructed for the neighborhood to the north.
Okay. And then the only entrance is here on the side after the, like,
Can we go
entrance to the
back to the
neighborhood?
diagram?
It's on Northwest, the 238 Terrace, that's the only one. that's
On the entrance, right? So you have to enter the neighborhood and then make a left into the property?
That's correct.
Okay.
What's the school off of Newberry Road in front of, I wanna say Arbor Greens? That's,
Talking about green?
no, this isn't Jonesville.
Oh.
The one that's across the street.
Right across the street from, huh?
The Living Academy?
Yeah, so there's Kids Words in Tioga, I'm not talking about that one, I'm talking about like the one that's, if you're, that light that's on Arbor Greens now,
Jockey Club.
the Jockey Club, it's inside Jockey Club.
Yeah, that's the Healthy Learning
Can you turn your microphone on?
Yeah, sorry.
So the entrance exit is gonna be very similar, I guess, to how that works in Jockey Club, where I'm going to say.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of Iliano's, where you have to sort of turn down that road,
Right.
like you're going to that neighborhood, and then you turn in from there. And I think there's regulations about having the entrance to the neighborhood and then having another entrance off of Newberry Lane, so there's no other way for them to get in currently.
Do we know if there is currently a bus stop there in that neighborhood?
I think that's within the, I'm not at that location. I think that's within the 2-mile radius, which means there wouldn't be a bus stop there, but in the back of the neighborhood, there's a bus stop.
There's one on 3rd and
Yeah.
232nd, so I wasn't sure. There used to be, but
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was any more, because that would be a concern. If there's a bus stop right there, you want to add daycare traffic in the morning.
We will look into that and will respond.
Board Member Polo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, since we've got, so you're turning off of Newberry Lane into the neighborhood, correct? Am I reading that right? You're turning off Newberry Lane and into the neighborhood. Is there any kind of turn lane or some kind of traffic mitigation planned for, I didn't see it on here, but is there anything that's planned to make those turns
like
in
a-
and out safer?
Like a turn lane on Newberry Lane?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I am not aware of right now.
Is the land on both sides, what is that street? Both sides of that street, is
238 Terrace.
that commercial on both sides of it?
Yes,
So eventually that will be a commercial entrance
to the,
back to the neighborhood. Kind of like the one at Newberry Road is, all of that, you've got Canterbury or Lodge County Equestrian Center on one side. All of that land on the other side is all zoned to become commercial. So you drive through that commercial to get to, but I think it's a,
yes.
That's a lot longer of a stretch to
Yeah.
enter
This
into and
one?
not get a
No.
backflow. I'm concerned with that neighborhood entrance, and there's really not that much space after you pass the sign, and there being a backup of traffic there, especially in the mornings with school and work.
Are you suggesting a turn lane on Newberry Lane, or that once I get onto the terrace,
I
there's
don't
a
see
turn
how
lane
you could-
into O to B?
I don't see how you could put one on the terrace. It would have
Oh.
to come off of Newberry Lane,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a merge turn in. Because that is I mean, there's a lot of people in that neighborhood, and in the mornings for school, it is very busy.
Right. And
What does the traffic study say, Ms. Uma?
68.
it's at 68.
68
Yeah,
and,
but I mean, in turn, because you have to hit certain numbers on your traffic study before we can compel them to put in mitigating factors. Are we close to those kinds of numbers?
not, I don't think so, but I will recheck on that.
Let's make sure we have that answer before, if this moves forward, let's make sure we have that answer before we get to the next step.
Okay.
Did you remember Parker's yeah, this is a driving concern of the fact that the location where this is currently at, one, the residentials have lived there for several times, like the comments, the email, from Tracy Woods said, so they're already used to their traffic pattern. But what they're not used to at the current time is the traffic pattern that's about to hit because of Publix. And then on top of that, now you're gonna add another thing that's gonna drive actual, let's say 68 per the study. To me, that's a concern on a very small 2-lane highway that we're already having as many flashing lights and speed bumps we could put in that area. We still have accidents on Newberry Lane. People drive up and down that coming off of Newberry Road into Newberry Lane already driving
Extremely fast.
already quickly. And then my concern, if we go back to the actual map, this starts right where that curve hits. Once you get into Newberry Lane, you're hitting that curve and people,
You're gonna have stop traffic because there's not enough of a leeway in the beginning of the neighborhood. So
Right.
it's gonna have a backflow if there's any kind of backup at all. So then you have people stopped on Newberry Lane and people flying off of Newberry Road onto Newberry Lane. There's kids in the car because they're going
Right.
to a daycare. Now you're adding Publix. There's gonna be a light somewhere.
on Newberry,
Right.
it's proposed for
I
Newberry
think I
Lane and
have
Newberry Road.
that picture here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go with the entrance just east of the backside of Publix. My concern is all the traffic you got traffic from Avalon Woods, Oak Park, Newberry, Corners, all that
Newberry Oaks.
subdivision back there that cuts through Newberry Lane to come into Newberry Road. And then on top of that, you're gonna have, so my concern is people leaving the daycare, trying to make a left lane, now backing up traffic because of people trying to leave the neighborhood. You're gonna have approximately, I'll just say, even if in an extra 30 vehicles, that's an extra 30 vehicles that these residents are currently gonna have to go up against to leave an already congested 1-lane highway. And then my biggest thing is the safety of the children here. When I'm seeing this off of a main highway, there is no school zone, unlike, for example, Greenfield that is off of a main highway. There is a school zone except for the one off of on Newberry Road.
I believe they have like a turn across
Right,
traffic site, or there's, I believe, a merge off turn.
yeah. So my concern is like the safety in that parking lot. Is there, other than trees, is there gonna be like a perimeter wall around that parking lot? Any kind of fencing around that parking lot to help mitigate, the parking area? I mean, you have a family with 3 kids in a car and one decides to jolt out. That's the last thing I would, yeah,
Not to mention the potential of cars coming off of Newberry Lane into their parking lot.
right.
What I would say is, I think these are all good points. I'm not sure that we can legally put all of these requirements on this one applicant, because I think that you've got commercial on both sides, and then you've got commercial that's gonna be all up and down Newberry Road headed east. So it seems to me like there's an opportunity to maybe partner with O2B, the developer, the owner, and maybe the city needs to be part of this, because I could see a need for a turn lane as soon as you turn north onto Newberry Lane if you're coming that way and need to be able to get off. I can also see a need for a turn lane because I think a lot of residents would come down Newberry Lane. If I'm coming down 27, I might turn down Newberry and go that way. So I can see that need for all of that. But I think that, again, I don't know that we can legally say, well, one business has to do, $1 million worth of turn lanes when every business that goes in that section is going to benefit from those turn lanes. But I do think that's where we could have conversations, with ODB, with the owner, with the developers, with the city. And I think we can have those conversations pretty quickly to say, look, we want this to go, but we know we need, and a lot of times we say, okay, the first person that goes in maybe doesn't need it, but by the time you add another one, these other improvements have to happen. Is O to B part of the partnership to get the light? Because I know all of the businesses that are going there are kind of ponying up some percentage to pay for the light, and I know they're not right on the corner. Has there been that conversation?
I know they are the part of the traffic study. I am not sure if they are part of the traffic light
Funding? Okay.
So I can inquire about that.
Well, at this point, that's really on Highland to reach out to everybody who's benefiting from the light and say, hey, how can you help? Because they're on the hook for the light. So we don't have to be the negotiators there. But I think it's, as good neighborly partners. Boardman Long, you were waiting to get in.
With the Newberry Plaza going across the street, wouldn't there be an idea to put a turning lane from Newberry Lane onto Newberry Road? If you have if there's a traffic light going right there, wouldn't it be going across the street as well?
From leaving Highland to go straight? No, the FDOT is not going to let traffic leave Highland and cross road on Newberry Lane. You can turn, you can turn east or west on Newberry Road. They're also not going to let people coming in turn left at the light into Highland Park. You're going to have to pass the light. There's going to be there'll be a 2 turn lanes, one east, one west, that you'll get into the turn lane, and then you'll wait for a gap to go over. I don't understand that decision, but they've run it. We've run it all the way through the appeals process, and they say it's safer and keeps traffic flowing better.
But even with the light there, that still doesn't really mitigate too much of the right-hand turn into Newberry Lane.
Well, I think the right-hand turn lane, it's nice to have the stop, and I think that's going to drive more people to Newberry Lane because I can get to a light, right? And it's going to be easy. I would also anticipate, depending on where I live in Newberry Oaks, now coming out that terrace, because now I come out right into a light instead of trying to get out at Canterbury and cross where people are going, 65, 70 miles an hour. So I think a lot of the neighborhood is going to start flowing once the light is coming out that terrace, unless it's backed up, right? Also getting, the eastbound traffic in the morning, once the light's there, you'll have a steady, every 3 minutes, 4 minutes, there'll be a stop, right? So that will be somewhat helpful to getting across the road. And there is a plan in FDOT's infinite wisdom at some point in time for a light to go in at Canterbury. It'll happen. I just don't have a timeline, but they are aware of it and they are planning for it. They just don't have a timeline. So, on this point here, I think what the plan should be is we've heard this conversation. I think the direction should be to staff. Let's sit down with O2B, the city, and the developer and really think about the need for turn lanes east and west, and how are we going to make sure that we don't have a stop up that ends up going back into Newberry Road. And let's see if we can find some way to have a tri-party partnership to help mitigate that.
I like that idea.
What other?
My only comment is that I think that this is a necessity in our community, and I think ODB is a great company. I think that they do great work, and I think that it has a place here. I just have concerns about so I just want to say I'm supporting ODB. They're great. CHW is great.
Yeah.
The traffic situation right there is not great.
Well, and I think it would be really beneficial here if we had a master plan for that entire commercial site.
Right.
Because it's not just O2B, right? It's going to be that entire
Corner.
And ideally, if we had that master plan, there might be a road somewhere else, and then I would get O2B I wouldn't be stuck going into that one location, but
Like even if the road started further up the
Yeah.
road and it was its own drive, but then you're cutting across other parcels and
people's,
stuff like that.
yeah.
So.
I think at the end of the day, to Ms. Pohl's point, I don't think it's anything it's CHW or ODB. It's just there's too many unknown variables at this moment that to continue through. It's just not something that I would be comfortable with a lot of unanswered questions.
I agree. The biggest concern is the traffic and the kids that'll be all in the area dealing with that traffic and what it might do to the people that live there. Honestly, for something to go in the front and attached to a neighborhood, a daycare seems pretty reasonable. They're not going to be up making noise late at night or anything crazy. So I like O2B. I think it is also a good fit. We just need to work on the traffic stuff.
I mean, I like the idea of having the stormwater to the north. I mean, that makes sense. But also, if we can't mitigate the traffic, then if you put the stormwater and landscaped it in front, then that would give you a wider path to drive to the back. And I think that's probably got pros and cons for the neighborhood, because then now the building is closer to the residences, but I have more space to get people off of the road.
Yeah, because if you look at the ODB off of Newberry Road, that's already up by Parker Road. That's an incredibly busy intersection, incredibly busy road, but it was designed in such a way that you're never worried about the kids.
Right.
Right.
There
No
are
wait for
longer,
expect.
like they're not even turn lanes, but it's it's just a little easier to get in and out of.
I just want to briefly, Tracy's comment on the noise. My subdivision lives right behind, like literally Greenfield is our back neighbor. And the noise is really, I'm sorry, man, but to me, if you don't enjoy, if you are mad about kids laughing, yeah, I think there's something seriously wrong. It's literally, yes, kids are behind that fence line and you could just hear them laughing, giggling, and, doing their thing. And literally at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it is done. At 7 in the morning, you don't hear anything because of the fact that they're either asleep, they haven't had the caffeine yet, or they're getting into the classroom. Like, right. And I don't think, from my neighbor that works from home that lives literally right on that fence line, she tells me that the noise doesn't really start until about maybe 10 o'clock in the morning. Right. And the only thing that's like, sometimes I have to mute my Zoom call because so they'll be like, "Oh, you have kids in your house?" It's like, no. But yeah, the noise, I personally would rather see a daycare, because if this is zone commercial, it could be anything. It could be an auto shop that's we don't know. So to say that, yes, we absolutely 100% would welcome, a daycare. We just want to make sure our children are high priority in their safety. And obviously the traffic and the residents that have lived there their whole lives, or for a majority of their lives, invested in this community. We want to make sure that they're not being, I want to say, hindered or impacted. Now that we're gonna put this there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things I'd like to kind of share with y'all, I guess, to address some of these concerns. I hear y'all on the concern of the safety for kids being brought to and leaving the site. The way the driveway is positioned now off of the neighborhood roadway, that's the lowest speed road that is available, right, for folks to access this. So they're coming into the site off a low-speed road as opposed to Newberry Lane, where traffic is going to be moving faster. So that's really kind of the safest possible place to put the driveway. And then as far as separating the parking lot and the site from Newberry Lane, there's a berm on the south side of the site separating the parking lot from the roadway. So the earth will be built up there by a few feet to provide somewhat of a barrier to, either cars coming in or kids leaving the parking area. And then as far as the site layout goes, the playground is placed on the north side of the building, the furthest away from Newberry Lane. So that, the playground, the play area is between the building and the stormwater pond, thereby, keeping the kids as far away from Newberry Lane as possible when they're out there in the play area. So,
So what is the option as far as what they were talking about with moving the stormwater to the front and scooting it back? Because there is a double stormwater, so there still would be a buffer between the closest home and the back fence of, I mean,
Yeah.
all that drain
yeah.
pond is there. It's quite a big amount of space.
Yeah, so that's a good point. There is, two stormwater ponds, like you said, separating kids from the neighborhood. So we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of feet, buffering those two. And the stormwater pond does have plantings around it, so there'd be trees and shrubs and those type of things to kind of help screen the neighborhood from the play area. As far as moving the stormwater pond to Newberry Lane, that unfortunately is not possible because the site is low in the back and high in the front. So you're sending the rainwater up there, which doesn't work, unfortunately.
Well, and I would say, I'm not arguing with you, you're the engineer, I'm not, but we don't actually need the building moved, we just need the driveway in moved. So, and again, if we can figure out something with the turn lanes that makes sense because we're gonna add more commercial there, then maybe that's worth it. If we can't, then obviously not, but if it's just a little bit deeper into the neighborhood and then I kind of turned in and then came back to the parking lot, I think that would help out a lot with what I'm hearing from the board. I'm just concerned about having to turn off of Newberry Lane and kind of immediately turn into the parking lot. That's going to create, I get that people are dropping their kids off, they're not there for a long time, but, if you go to the elementary school or the middle school, drop off and pick up is 30 minutes of, there's just no great way to drop off, 200 kids in a 15-minute span of time, So just thoughts that I think will keep that conversation going. We've all listened to this conversation. We'll all get around a table between now and the commission and see what we can do. Other questions about the application? I love that we've got dark sky already into the conditions for this motion. Okay, hearing none, would you like to make a final argument? Don't feel the need that you have to, but you have the opportunity if you want.
So we'd ask for approval on the project. We hear y'all's concerns. I think the main thing from our client is that the site does comply with all the regulations of the Land Development Code. So we would ask for approval accordingly.
All right, thank you, sir. Where'd Ms. Uma go? I couldn't see behind the 6'6" guy. Do you have a final argument, Ms. Uma?
No, I go with the same. It's
Will you put the conditions back up? Yeah.
if approved, it will be heard again on Board of Adjustment on 9 September.
Okay, and you've been advised by the attorney, so we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no more deliberations, I'll have a motion. Don't everybody jump at one time. Any more thoughts? And the conditions are in this motion, so if you have the recommended there, then it will include the conditions.
I motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion from Board Member Long with conditions. Do I have a second?
I just want to see these conversations take place. I can't push forward with it. I feel like pushing this forward with the conditions.
I mean, if you add the condition that they have to have the conversations, then it becomes part of it. Will you amend your motion to put
The problem is
those conversations in?
With all due respect, Mr. Mayor and Chair, I feel like if I put a condition into a motion, I won't have the ability to hear what happened in those conditions to my liking to then go ahead and move it forward to the commission. Like, I feel like I'm gonna make a motion that they're gonna have conversations. How those conversations go after that will go before the commission, but it won't come before us again. So I don't feel comfortable even enough to be like, hey, I want to push this forward without having those conversations.
I mean, I think that,
yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but this body's job is to say to the commission, you need to address those, right? These are the concerns. Right.
To their conditions and recommendations, so.
We would, if we weren't gonna have these conversations and bring that to a resolution, we wouldn't recommend yes. If you promise us that you're gonna have those, but just like the commission, it's out of any one board member or commissioner's hands at that point. It's about collectively kind of coming together and figuring out how can we do this. And I'm just not sure and this is the point that I want to be careful on, with their traffic study, the things that this body is asking for, while I find them very reasonable and agree with them, I'm not sure you can legally say that you've got to spend $1 million on turn lanes, because their traffic study isn't necessarily warranting that. So I generally find in this moment that we have a better time being nice to each other and trying to work as partners than trying to come down and say, thou shalt do this, because then they're just going to come back and say, well, we conform with your regulations right now.
It's a hard when it comes to kids, man.
Based on the conditions that we've discussed, incorporating those into the motion that Member Long made, I second.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor now, right? But we clearly have a divided board. Any public comment on this? Come on down, sir.
Yeah, my name's Gary Weisman. I'm one of the owners of the property. The worried about the neighbors, there's actually this retention pond that they're proposing. We have a retention pond, and then there's another almost 1 acre piece before you get to the residential area. So there's more if you wanted to pull back the site plan, the
Can we
238.
go back and assume it to that?
Then there's another parcel still, so they're going to be a long ways from the noise.
I don't think that the noise, Mr. Weisman, is the concern. I think the concern here is the traffic backing up, and can we get everybody in with such a short
I
turnaround?
understand, and they've got other ODBs. There's one on Tower Road that their parking lot is so big that people get off the main road and they're on the private property. And it's not like a school where you got 700 kids trying to get there in 10 minutes. These kids will be scattered out over whatever, an hour or two in the morning, and they don't all get picked up at the same time. And I think y'all should recommend maybe that the CHW has some traffic engineers there, and you're right, they can address whether they need to adjust the parking lot or how far the entrance is to be off Newberry Lane, but they can review that and make sure that it's still good, and then that should satisfy, hopefully, the city commission and everybody else.
Mr. Weisman, you own the commercial property going east,
Correct.
correct? I think the most compelling thing you can say to this board is that you're very willing to sit down and have a conversation about everything that's suggested. We're not asking anybody to put their hand on the Bible and promise to anything, but just commit to having a conversation as a partner, landowner, CHW, city, and O2B to see, what we can do. Where you
Well,
object to having that conversation?
No, and what's going to happen in the future, I guess they're already supposed to put the traffic light there, and whatever they're going to do, that's going to mitigate whatever has to be done and make improvements, and then whatever happens on our big parcel right there, then, like Jordan says, that's going to trigger other things. It's probably going to trigger another red light down there at Canterbury. We have several other entrances off 26, and that'll all have to be traffic engineered at one time for interconnectivity and everything else that none of us are qualified to do. That's between CHW and other traffic engineers. So I think we're good with this site, but yeah, we all know that when something happens east of there, the big projects, that everything's going to have to be coordinated and addressed on a master plan, right?
And the question that I'm asking tonight, with a one-person down PZB meeting, and two very uncomfortable moving forward, and two willing to say, we trust everybody's going to have this conversation. Can we have this conversation so that if this goes in front of the commission, that we've already got some solutions, like, yes, we recognize this and we know what these traffic counts will be, or we have a reason why this concern should be mitigated more than it's being mitigated tonight. Can we have that conversation within the next couple of weeks? Staff, we can put that conversation together?
Absolutely.
CHW, we can put that conversation together? Mr. Weisman, you
Yes.
willing to be a partner with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
The only thing I'd like to amend about the presentation is the time date certain for the Board of Adjustment hearing. I'd like to suggest we move it from September 9th to September 23rd to give us additional time to resolve these matters.
That sounds like a good compromise too, right? So instead of saying the first meeting in September, do the second meeting in September. That gives us a couple more weeks to have all of these conversations and get to a resolution.
And Mr. Mayor, can we just clearly articulate the exact things that need to be addressed? Is it the stacking of
I'm
vehicles
hearing.
for pickup and drop-off times. The turning movements in and out of the site, just to have those simulated to some effect to ensure there's no immediate conflict with the vehicles. Confirm bus stop locations in the area so there's no conflict there as well. And were there any other
think you did a great
traffic-related
job.
items that?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Yep. So let the record show all of those notes.
is there anything that, in this discussion, the trucks from Publix during the morning, there's quite a bit, and that's where they're gonna be loading and unloading is through the back of that area?
You're absolutely correct. That is the
And
exit
since that
lane for
hasn't
deliveries.
happened, technically a traffic study per se of this caliber might not
It
be
already encompassed it.
with the
with
trucks from
Publix.
Publix.
Yeah.
But I can tell you the dump trucks from the concrete company that goes off, what road that is.
235?
Yeah.
Probably migrate to that road because there's been traffic. lights.
That was encapsulated too. So when this traffic study was done, Publix, Highland, and this whole commercial area all went into it, which is one of the reasons why that traffic study was over a year, because we kept adding different elements to it. But we didn't get here without knowing that Publix has delivery trucks. We didn't contemplate a light going there without knowing that everyone will start gravitating towards the light. And I think we've got the highest traffic usage in Highland Park being in that study. So the only way that study goes is down, actually, if some of those things don't end up being quite as active. So we buy a couple more weeks, let everybody have these conversations. You guys have articulated your concerns. You've read them into the record.
Sir.
Okay. Thanks. Let me take other public comment. Do you have anything else?
No,
No.
other than the traffic engineers are more qualified than all of us put together, I think, to resolve this. Any other questions for?
All right.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Other public comment. Come on down, sir.
Good evening. My name's James Patton. I live on Northwest 3rd Avenue. My concern is that some months ago, there was an accident right there by the Publix. And something
235.
happened because I was outside and I started noticing traffic coming down Northwest 3rd Avenue, which had been diverted through the neighborhood. My concern is that what's going to happen is they're going to start coming in from the equestrian center entrance. If it gets backed up where you're referring to, they're going to come in there and then they're going to drive all the way through the neighborhood and go out that exit. That's right there by Otoby Kids. I have no problem with Otoby Kids. I like them as well. But I think it's going to be an increase on Northwest 3rd Avenue. I think people are pretty smart. They see it gets backed up at that particular area, and they'll come in from the north end, that way, through the neighborhood. That's my concern.
I agree. Yeah. So,
There's a third exit on 235
yeah.
from that neighborhood.
There's 3 entrances to Newberry Oaks.
Yeah.
The equestrian center, of course, the one right there by Otoby Kids, and then, of course, the one on 235.
Yeah.
And those will all be used. And if that area gets so overly congested, people are very smart with and diligent with their time, and they'll start driving through the neighborhood to get to that, and drop off their kids, and out they go.
We'll work real hard to make sure it doesn't get congested to the best of our ability.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Other public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll come back. Any final comments? We've had enough to move through. Just reminded, we are in quasi-judicial, and in quasi-judicial, we have to have very clear legal standing when we say no. So as long as everyone's happy, then as long as the experts are happy, it's kind of difficult. So if we get to the end of these conversations and we got the traffic studies and I say, well, we didn't consider something, that becomes a different thing. But we have no expert testimony right now saying that this is going to be an issue. We have our gut intuition that says it's going to be, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just reminding you that we're not in legislative, we're in quasi. Any other comments? I think it's always fair to tell the applicant if we think we're not going to vote for this, and give the applicant the chance to table it till we have a 5-person board, because if the vote fails, then he's got to wait a year to come back, and that could be devastating to the applicant.
So the Planning and Zoning Board is a recommending body, Mr. Mayor, so it'll move forward to the Board of Adjustment with a recommendation. The commission, or
Even
the
if
Board
this
of
motion
Adjustment
fails? Well, I guess you do have the right, even with a failed vote, to move
The
forward.
Board of
So I
Adjustment
take
could
that
still
as-
approve it and approve the application.
But I've never seen the commission approve something that this board was against.
Is a straw vote appropriate for this situation?
Well, I mean, I think the board members can just say, I am not compelled, or, Weisman said he's gonna talk, we bought another couple weeks, that buys my vote, I've been very clear about my feeling, and that's where I'm at. Board Member Parker?
I'd be okay with moving forward with all of those concerns taken into place, and I don't have any legal say or anything like that. I would be very disappointed if it wasn't considered. I live in that neighborhood. I don't live in that entrance. I use most of the other ones, but I do live in there. And it concerns me. I see the traffic day to day. I see the people speeding through. I have concerns. And putting a bunch of kids, that safety is my number one concern. So I hope that it is taken into consideration. So, thank you.
I guess my only comment, it's gonna be a compliment to you, JP. From the time I've known you, working here and seeing your work ethic and what you've done and the conversations you've had, from public to applicants, as a libertarian, I hate saying that I trust the government, but I do trust you.
Flattered and honored, sir.
So, when, I know that when you say you're gonna put your full effort and make sure that a lot of these concerns are addressed, it goes a long way, at least with me.
I appreciate
So,
it. Thank you for your
I would be more of it's gonna be a very reluctant yes, but because of the fact, it's really JP that is pushing that yes, buddy, so.
He just doesn't know you yet, Miss Stacy. But in another year, he's gonna be saying the same
I
thing
mean,
about
she
you.
should be flattered
Yeah.
because of the fact that, they work together
Right.
and she's like, hey,
Yeah.
that's my team member, so.
Okay. Hearing no more comment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously with all of those caveats and that moves us to item, we're back to 5, right? We're called up? Okay, rezoning of agriculture classification from Alachua County, City of Newberry Agriculture. Mr. Attorney, we are still in quasi judicial, no one news entered the room. Would you please read ordinance 2024-21/LDR 2417 into the record?
Which is the number?
It is, I have 2024, oh, it's number 5 agenda item.
2421 LDR 2417. We're on number 5.
Yeah, we're on agenda item number 5, ordinance 2024-21.
LDR 24
There it is.
There it is, okay.
Yeah.
17.
No,
This is an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida relating to the amendment of the official. Mr. Mayor, this is an ordinance of the city of Newberry, Florida relating to amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 4.76 acres more or less pursuant to an application amending the official zoning atlas of the city of Newberry land development regulations, providing for rezoning from Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the city of Newberry, Florida, which have been recently annexed thereto. Tax parcel number is 01925-010-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance for recommendation, ordinance number 2024-21 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. We
Yes, sir.
appreciate it. Is the board all where we're at, or we have a typo? We got it figured out?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's 16, but it just, I think on the agenda.
Yeah, it says 17, but on the packet,
It
it says 16.
So it is -17 though, is the LDR -17?
LDR 17
So it's a typo on their packet.
on the packet.
But that's a Scrivener's error, right? Okay, we've read it into the record. Ms.
So
Uma,
sorry.
go ahead and give us the staff overview. If the applicant does not have a presentation, move right into the staff presentation and recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. This is Uma Sarmishta. I'm reading Ordinance 2024-21 for rezoning from County Agriculture to City of Newberry Agriculture zoning on 4.76 acre. This is again a change of zoning designation from Alachua County to Newberry. It's a like-to-like zoning on a recently annexed parcel. The annexation was finalized on July 22nd, 2024. The parcel is located on the east of southwest to 26th Street. This was an unincorporated land. The parcel number here is incorrect. Again, there is an error there. The parcel number is 01925-010-000. Petition is by Jamie Nelson. She is the owner. The procedures is like it will go to 1 planning and zoning and 2 commission hearing. Rezoning is contingent upon the future land use adoption, which was just heard by the board. Staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Regulation and recommend for approval. If approved, the petition will be heard on September 9, 2024 by the City Commission.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead for public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this agenda item, have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, we'll move on to members of the City McBride. Do you have any questions? That'd be very good. Then we'll enter deliberations. I'll have a vote.
To approve?
Second.
Motion from Board Member Long, second Board Member Parker. Any comments, questions on the floor from the board? Seeing none, any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That moves us to item 6. We're out of quasi momentarily. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2024-22/CPA 2408 into the record, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 is amended relating to an amendment of the future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan of 9.85 acres of land under the small-scale development amendment procedures established under the small-scale amendment provisions of Section 163.3187 Florida statutes as amended, providing for a change in land use classification from Alachua County rural agriculture less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres to City of Newberry agricultural less than or equal to 1 dwelling unit per 5 acres on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Parcel numbers are 0442-000-000, consisting of approximately 9.85 contiguous acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-22 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Uma, take it away. You're working hard tonight.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening again. This is Uma Sarmishta. I'm reading Ordinance 2024-22 for future land use map amendment from County Rural Agriculture to City of Newberry Agriculture on a 9.85 acre land. Not going.
We might need some technical assistance.
It's on.
Take the back off and mess with the batteries a little bit. So that's what always happens to mine in my classroom. There you go. You went like 15 times. See?
I know.
Yeah.
So this is again like future land use map amendment. The parcel was recently annexed and finalized on July 22nd, 2024. This is the property location. It is again in the unincorporated land. It is under annexation 38, which was passed recently. Ordinance is by Daniel Shore. And the parcel number is 0442-000-000. It's a 9.85 acre. As I said, it's like future land use map amendment. It will go through one planning and zoning and two commission hearing, and it's a small scale transmitter. So transmitting to the Department of Commerce will be after the adoption, and future land use map amendment is a legislative procedure. Staff find the request consistent with the Newberry Comprehensive Plan and Land Development, and recommend for approval to go to the next commission meeting on 9th of September.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Questions from the board? No questions? If there are no questions, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve from Board Member Urchin.
Second.
Second, Board Member Pollard. Comments, questions on the motion from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us back into quasi. Mr. Attorney, we haven't had any new people come into the room, right? We're still, so all my procedures are still valid. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2024-23/LDR 24-18 into the record for us?
Is an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the amendment of the official zoning atlas for the rezoning of 9.85 acres more or less pursuant to an application amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from the Alachua County Agricultural A zoning district to the City of Newberry Agricultural A zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, which have been recently annexed thereto. Tax parcel number is 04442-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing effective date. The appropriate motion is to recommend approval for the passage of ordinance number 2024-23 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Ms. Uma, go ahead and give us the overview. If the applicant doesn't have a presentation, move forward with your presentation and recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening again. This is Uma Sarmishta, Planning and Economic Development Department. I'm reading Ordinance 2024-23 for the zoning of county agriculture to city agriculture on 9.85 acres. It's again a change of zoning designation on a recently annexed parcel, which was annexed on July 22nd. It's a like-to-like rezoning. The parcel is located on the east side of Southwest 170th Street. Parcel number is 04442-000-000. Petition is by Daniel Shore. The procedure will be planning and zoning and two commission meeting, and rezoning is contingent upon FLUMA adoption, which was just recommended by the board. Staff find the request consistent with the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan and Land Development, and if approved today, it will go for the commission hearing on the 9th September. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item? You have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, I'm going to go straight to member decision-making body. Do you have any questions? No questions? Or one question? No questions? No questions? If there are no questions, then I will. Ms. Umi, did you want to make a final argument? No? Okay. Enter to deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a vote. Motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Board Member Long.
Second.
A second from Board Member Parker. Finally beat Naeem to the mic. Good job. Questions on the motion from the dais? Public questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That's going to move us we're on 8, correct? Preliminary plat for Countryway South Phase 2. Mr. Attorney, would you please read Resolution 2024-16 into the record for us?
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving a preliminary plat consisting of 130 acres more or less, as authorized under Section 5.16 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations and Planned Development PD, known as Countryway South Phase 2, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to recommend approval for the passage of resolution number 2024-16 as read by title only.
Ms. Uma, did you lose a bet?
I'm here all night today.
Okay.
This is my
go
last one for sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'm reading Resolution 2024-16, SD 2406 is the quasi-judicial hearing for preliminary plat approval for Countryways South PRD Phase 2. The property is located south of Countryways South. So, the parcel is 02540-001-000. The total acreage of the land is 10.22 acres. It will have 35 single-family home with associate improvements. One of the improvement they are putting is the lift station. The agent is CHW Consultant, and the petition is by Northly Property LLC. Zoning is PRD, and the land use is low-density residential. We have applicant here. Would you like to present?
Just in case you're not noticing that TV, because I think when you come up again, I was worried you were going to take yourself out there.
I appreciate that. All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Board. Yeah, we got a presentation.
Just give 1 second. We'll have it up there for you. Now, do you ever run into Scott when you're shopping for suits? Because there's got to be a different store for, 6 foot.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this right?
Yes,
Okay.
that's perfect.
And you either have a clicker or just give them a signal and they can advance it for you.
Wonderful. All right. Good evening. I'm walking around with CHW, Mr. Mayor, Chair. So we're here this evening with application for preliminary plat for Countryway Phase 2. This project is on a property that has a low-density residential future land use, PRD zoning, and this is for Phase 2 of the project. All right, this is the future land use map, so you can see this site outlined in the black and white kind of rope-looking line, and this Phase 2 is approximately the southern half of that property. This is the zoning map with the PRD zoning that Jerry did with y'all years and years ago. I think it was back in the early teens. They went through and laid that out.
1818 or?
Something like that, yeah. So this is the document from that. So what we're doing is essentially the southern half of that.
Yeah.
So here you can see kind of how the site was originally conceived with buffers along the east. Stormwater is shown in the green space at the southeast corner, and then in the bend on the west side, midway up the property. And this is the proposed plat. So you can see it mimics that. So the buffer along the east is there. Stormwater has been placed in the southeast corner, consistent with the PRD. And then we've got the green space on the west as well. And you can see in the middle that there's some additional green space that wasn't kind of anticipated in the original zoning. Yeah, that'll be common area, open space, yeah. All right, these highlighted that just came up are the stormwater ponds. Right, and this note from the original zoning document says that the location and boundaries of each land use area are not intended to be exact. The Planning and Zoning Board is hereby authorized to approve adjustments requested by the developer to all land use boundaries during the development review, so long as the total cumulative allocation of acreage is within 10%. So the whole idea is that it's close. It may not be exact, but it's close, and we're achieving what the original design intended. All right, and the PRD allows a density of 4.65 dwelling units per acre, and what we are proposing here is 3.42, so it's actually below that. So this will be slightly less intensely developed than is allowed by the zoning. All right, our request is for approval based on consistency with the future land use, zoning, and cities land development code. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Did you have more to your presentation? Yes? Oh,
You gotta move the microphone.
yeah.
I know. Okay, I think, thank you, and you did amazing job with all the colors there. So this is the plat from my side, which is not that colorful. Staff review, there has been extensive review of staff, and staff is satisfied with the final revision of the plan submitted, meet all the requirement of the City of Newberry code. Staff recommend approval of the preliminary plat with the advisory comments to be fulfilled at the construction plan and the final plat site. These are some of the conditions we have detailed in the resolutions. Details on the lift station shall be provided, and we are working with them, and they have a construction plan with the lift station there. Electric design shall be resolved at construction plan approval. Perimeter buffer shall be provided with the construction plan, and all site and street lighting shall be compiled to the latest FDOT lighting standard. That is the dark sky friendly. So this is in the resolution for the approval. With that, staff recommend that the planning board to approve preliminary plat for Countryway South Phase 2 by Resolution 2024-16, SD 24-6, and that's in my presentation.
Okay, generally, I've learned to just give this reminder because the questions that the public has and the commission and this board have aren't really applicable at the preliminary plat level. So I know that wasn't very detailed, but that's because this is like the very, very first step in the way. So buffer is kind of roundabout where everything's going to be oriented. That's kind of what we're looking for at this point. Do we have any questions about the, kind of broad strokes of how this is laid out?
I have a broad stroke question, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Is there in any iteration of what we move forward with any possibility for another exit
Over
or
the railroad?
entrance from this neighborhood? I live in Countryway, and well, build a bridge over it. I don't know. Come up with something. I'm sorry, that's not very helpful. I just when you talk about traffic over there on your side, you talk about traffic with the, getting out of Countryway. It's not been terrible with the addition of the new.
As long as there's a
phase.
traffic guard. Yeah.
Well,
as long as there's a traffic guard.
theoretically, just doesn't do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
We're working
I
on it.
appreciate her being out there, keeping the kids safe. But I guess that's just my question. Is that something that's like ever gonna happen? Because
I mean, I think that eventually the idea is as the development continues, we'll have some exits onto 30th to the south end towards Champions.
sure,
I
go
can-
that way. I don't care either. That's fine. Go
Yeah,
that way.
yeah,
Go
push them that way.
That works for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell you right now,
Off-road.
our ability to negotiate with railroads is just non-existent, I mean, and they spend more time trying to shut down crossings than open them up. But we had this same conversation for phase 1 was, you're in the back of the neighborhood, you got to get all the way out of that neighborhood.
I did have an idea that if we have our own police force out here, they could fund themselves by catching all of the people that fly through the four-way stops in Countryway. Like, that'd be, some solving problems over here.
Yeah.
Four-way stops in
Yeah.
there? No.
I thought those are yields. I didn't know.
Other questions for the applicant or staff on this preliminary?
Question on the buffer on the side of US 27, is that gonna be, like, I saw that it was it green space, it was common area? But you're gonna have common area all the way to US 27, or you're gonna have like a 20-foot buffer between the main road of US 27th and Countryway South?
So there will be a buffer along that
Okay.
area. That was
Yeah, because just on that picture that you showed, all the green, I mean, it was a great presentation. I was just like, so are you gonna have grass literally going, because then that alleviates the problem. A lot of people could just take their truck and just drive through the grass and not do Yeah, see, so I'm like, where is US 27th and the railroad track? Like, is it gonna, are you gonna have somebody stopping before the railroad track?
So, yeah, we got US 27 on the east and then the green space between. So that's what is required in the zoning document.
Yeah,
And then this is what we're proposing.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, that right there, where that green space ends. Is there a tree line or anything that's gonna be? The only reason I ask is because people get so desperate on US 15th. I've given up on the whole, I live in Oakview Village, I've given up on the people cutting through. Because people are mainly respectful when they cut through now. It's, the crazy ones is the ones that decide to turn onto the railroad tracks and take the railroad tracks down. And I'm like, now that's just stupid. So, yeah. Well, I've seen people cut not on the track, but on next to the track and taking like the rock side of the tracks all the way down. I'm like, that's just like, you're just whatever, man.
Yeah, I can't stop those guys.
Yeah. No, so that's what I was asking is like, so I see that there's green space there. That's awesome. However, beyond that green space, is there like a buffer in the sense of the tree line between that and CSX and the railroad tracks too?
I believe there is.
I'm not sure what is beyond.
Because CSX's
Okay.
easement is pretty wide,
Yeah.
and then there's a berm, and then there's trees there. Yeah.
I mean, the cops would have a field day if they just hooked up right there at the railroad tracks. I mean,
Other questions? No?
no, I know this is not to your respect. I'm just curious, is this gonna be, Adams Homes again, like building onto these, or is this gonna be Northfleet? I know it's not gonna be swaying a decision. I'm just like curious, is it an extension of Adams Homes, or is Northfleet gonna be doing it? It's gonna be Adams, okay.
Okay. If there are no more questions, I'll have a motion.
Motion to
approve.
I have a motion to approve from Board Member Long.
Motion to approve with conditions from staff. Sorry, I didn't mean to override you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And I have a second from Board Member Polo. Comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions, motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. It moves us to item 9. We're still in legislative. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2024-26/CPA 2405 into the record? John Paul, your legs were going to sleep back there, so it's good. You come on down, move around, get the blood flowing again.
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending ordinance number 4-91 is amended, relating to the amendment of future land use plan map of the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan under the expedited amendment procedures established in sections 163.31842 and 3 of the Florida statutes, and in conformance with sections 163.3161 through 163.3215 of the Florida statutes, providing for a change in future land use classification from residential low density to commercial on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Alachua County tax parcel number is 02268-000-000 on a site consisting of approximately 0.24 acres, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to recommend passage of ordinance number 2024-26 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. John Paul, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John Paul Perez, Community Development Department. The request before you tonight is a future land use map amendment. It is along State Road 26, so the City Commission is desirous of those properties along 26 becoming more available to a variety of uses in that area. Our commercial central business district is the most acceptable because it allows both for residential and non-residential uses that are appropriate for a downtown setting. So you don't have more intense uses like lumber yards and wholesalers and manufacturing happening next to residential in a downtown area. It's a very small lot as well, and is adjacent to the Lions Club. There's a companion item for the rezoning of this as well, so we're talking about converting the residential low density to commercial for the land use right now. And then the next item number 10 on the agenda, is the rezoning component. So just so you're prepared for that. Our recommended motion is to forward a recommendation to the City Commission to adopt the ordinance amending the future land use. And if this item is forwarded to the City Commission tonight, then we would have the first reading on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Sorry, being a little dramatic here with the pauses. So here's an aerial image of the property. Gina Phillips was here. She had to leave. I'm hoping that there are no questions that she would. There was a house on the property once upon a time and is now gone. I do see the neighbor present, so you may have some questions for the board or for staff. This is the future land use currently, which is residential low density, allows up to 4 dwelling units per acre. And then the proposed land use should state commercial. So we're going from residential to commercial land use. But the zoning itself will allow for both residential and commercial on the property. Okay. This is a very small site, so it'll be limited as to what can actually go there. In reviewing it for concurrency requirements, level of service standards for the comprehensive plan, the change in land use does represent an increase. It's not quantifiable at this point, but because of the small size of the lot, that actual increase in any sort of impact on level of service or traffic would be limited because of the limited site area. And it does comply with the comprehensive plan land development regulations, and recommended motion is to adopt or forward a recommendation to adopt. And again, if forwarded, September 9th at 7 p.m. will be the first reading of the ordinance. That completes my presentation.
Thank you. Board have any questions? John Paul, was the applicant made aware that the commission is willing to waive rezoning fees when we do the two-way pairs? And was she given the opportunity to wait for that? Because I don't know, or maybe we went ahead and did that. I thought that if we did them all together, it was kind of easier on us. So we were asking people to just wait for us to do them all together. If we do them one at a time, are we still being that generous?
We did have discussions both with Miss Gina Phillips and her daughter Elizabeth Rowe about possibly waiting. They wanted to move forward. There are no rezoning fees because it's a city commission initiative.
Okay.
That we did require them to pay the advertisement costs. Their
That's a hard cost,
proportionate share of the advertising costs.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
No questions from the board? If there are no questions, I'll have a motion. I have a move for approval from Board Member Urchin.
Second.
Second, Board Member Parker. Any comments, questions from the board on the motion on the floor? Comments or questions from the public on the motion on the floor? Come on down, sir.
Good evening. I am the neighbor. My name is Ralph Williams, and I'm here with my wife, Leanne. We live in the residence that is to the west, immediately adjacent to the parcel under consideration. And I've spent a greater part of my life dealing with the law of unintended consequences. So I'm trying very hard to head that off, and the sooner that my wife and I can get behind this and support it, the sooner I'd like to do so. So don't consider our presence here tonight, please, as an objection. The questions that I have are primarily based on, and we may be early in the process to ask or address the questions, but the questions that I have are primarily, if this parcel is changed to a commercial property, would the requirements of the historical architecture review board remain in place?
Correct.
That's my primary concern. We have every intention of keeping our property in line with those requirements. We're looking to do some future things, but we want to keep it where it looks, period, and you know, in keeping with the location that we're in. It's my concern that anything that would happen beyond this point, if the property was sold as a commercial property or something like that, we would just like to see that property under the requirements of the historic district.
It's not only in the requirements of the historic district, it's also in our urban overlay district. So it'll be held to a higher development standard on two fronts.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Other questions from the public? Comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Go back to the board. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that moves us to item 10, rezoning the property located at 25909 West Newberry Road from residential single family. Long sheet of paper. To commercial, we're back in quasi. Mr. Attorney, would you please read ordinance 2024-25 into the record for us?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the rezoning of approximately 0.24 contiguous acres more or less pursuant to a petition by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from residential single-family RSF2 zoning district to the Commercial Central Business District CBD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel number is 02268-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and provide an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass or recommend passage of ordinance number 2024-25 as read by title only.
Thank you, sir. John Paul, go and give us the overview. If the applicant doesn't want to make a presentation, go and move into your presentation and recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Yes. Recommended motion for this is from staff is for the board to forward a recommendation to the City Commission to adopt the ordinance rezoning the property from RSF2 to CCBD. If this petition moves forward to the City Commission, first reading will be on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. This is the same property that we just discussed before, but because we're in quasi now, I'm just going to go through some of the details. So as part of the record, as stated by the city attorney, parcel number is 02268-000-000. It's approximately a quarter of an acre. Owners are Robert F. and Gina M. Phillips. They are trustees of their own revocable living trust. And the request is to rezone the property from RSF2 to CCBD. Staff has reviewed this for compliance with the land development regulations and comprehensive plan. We do find it in compliance with both those documents. This is an image showing kind of the overall downtown area zoning as we move through some of these small individual parcels being rezoned. So you can see that the pattern of the CBD is there on State Road 26 currently. This is just bringing this forward. They came in advance of the city's initiative to kind of rezone that whole area corridor, consistent with the Twin Pairs or along with or concurrent with the Twin Pairs project. RSF2 district allows for single-family public parks and recreation, community residential homes, which are those group homes of 6 or fewer residents, could be adults, children, people in transition, public schools, and home occupations. Special exception uses include churches, places of assembly, golf courses, and appurtenances there too, cemeteries and appurtenances there too, clubs, lodges, private parks, public buildings, commercial greenhouses and nurseries, daycares, and tiny home neighborhoods. CBD. So they allow all those uses permitted in the commercial general zoning district, which is your what you see a lot of on US 2741. That's more commercial intensive, but your typical retail and personal service establishments. In addition to the CG uses, it allows for convention centers and auditoriums, wholesaling, not manufacturing or distributing, like a tile store or something to that effect. Compound uses, which is confusing, but what they're referring to is just different types of residentials units. So it would allow for a single family home, it would allow for a duplex, it would allow for townhomes. Public buildings and facilities, churches and places of assembly by right, so they don't need to come in for a special exception for that in CBD. Private clubs and lodges, and then by special exception, it only has one open air restaurant. So there's history to that. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but there is a story behind that. The applicant's not here, they have left, but I'm available to answer any questions that the board may have. you like me to continue to
Going
findings?
to the
and-
recommendation.
Yes, sir. Staff finds it consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations. We are recommending the board forward a recommendation to adopt the ordinance to the city commission. And again, if forwarded, first reading will be on September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, sir. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wish to speak to this item, have 3 minutes to do so. Got anything else you want to say, Pastor? All right, thank you. We're going to come back to members' decision-making body. Do you have any questions for staff? Yeah, I don't really have any questions either. I just would say let's make the applicant aware of the stormwater limitations, size of that lot. It's gonna be tough. They're gonna have to work with some partners to be able to,
Absolutely.
And I know the city, we're working on creating some sort of downtown centralized stormwater so that we can encourage some development without it being onerous on each individual business to put 30% of their property aside for stormwater and pay for the whole thing themselves. So, okay, did you want to make a final argument, John Paul?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no deliberations, I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion from Board Member Parker, second from Board Member Long. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, questions, motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're still in quasi. We're going to move on to item 11, this ordinance 2024-24. Mr. Attorney, would you please read that into record?
An ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the rezoning of approximately 1.34 contiguous acres more or less pursuant to a petition by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from commercial intensive CI zoning district to the commercial central business district C-CBD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. The tax parcel number is 01963-001-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2024-24 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead and take it away, John Paul. Maybe we have one presentation from an applicant tonight? Oh, no? Oh, okay, all right.
It'll be a short performance by Clay Sweeger.
Sure, won't you? Just wanted to stand up and say, hey, yeah, all right. Go ahead, John Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, for the record, since we're in quasi, John Paul Perez with the Community Development Department. The request before you tonight is a rezoning. Our recommendation on this rezoning, I'm going to get into the details of the property in just a moment, but just to lead with our recommendation, we are recommending the board forward a recommendation to the City Commission to adopt this ordinance rezoning the property. And if this is forwarded to the City Commission, first reading will be on Monday, September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. So the property is the Barnett Bank property on US 2741. Right now it's a ethnic food store, grocer, Tienda Hernandez, yes. And it's languishing a little bit, so any sort of change to the property would be a welcome one. In this particular case, well, let me just go through the details of the property. So the parcel number is 01963-001-000. It's comprised of approximately 1.34 acres, and the address is 311 Northwest 250th Street in the city of Newberry, Florida, 32669. Agent is EDA Consultants. Clay Sweeger is here to answer any technical questions about the application. The petitioner and owner is Mohammed Abul Chowdhury and Thamina Catering. So this is an aerial image of the property showing that, a majority of the northern part of the site is vacant. Parking in the old bank sites on the south side has access to the 3rd Ave and no access to 4th Ave. East on this property are 3 neighbors that live off of 249th, and so that was a contemplation of both the owner and EDA when considering how to best approach the redevelopment of the site. CBD allows for a reduction in setbacks, allows for a more urban form for development that comes in, reduces parking requirements as well, so you're able to get a more urban type of development on the property. In this particular case, going from commercial intensive, I should say, to commercial central business district, it's actually a de-intensification of the property. There are some uses in the commercial intensive that are not generally consistent with the commercial corridor and are lean more towards light industrial. And these are wholesalers, manufacturing, transit terminals, et cetera. So we'll go through the list of uses so you can evaluate them just based on the list. So you can see how this might be more conducive for this particular area of town. So CBD allows for those uses allowed in commercial general, which are your general retail and personal service uses. Also convention centers, wholesaling, no manufacturing or distribution. This would be, like I said previously, like a tile store or a floor liquidator type of business that we already have in the Commerce 41 area. Yeah. And various types of residential uses are also permitted. So. This parcel also is in the overlay district, so they have that additional requirement to provide, I believe, a 15-foot landscape buffer in the front of the property. And so we'll see details on that when they come in for the actual site plan. So that would be the next step in the process of redevelopment. If the zoning is approved, is to move forward with site plan, and that's when we'll get our landscape plans and elevations of the building and whatnot. CG uses, retail, office, hotels, recovery homes, service stations, car rentals, hospitals, and churches. Our commercial districts are all tiered, commercial general being the equivalent of like a C1 in other districts being the least intense. And then commercial intensive and commercial central business district share like a 2 and a extra 2 or a light 2 slot. And so these would be allowed already on the property. There's no change to that. This is not granting additional uses, and it's actually going to be a reduction of the number of uses they can do. Commercial intensive uses, so retail, lumber, and building supplies, so something along the lines of like a Rural King, which might be welcome there, but Rural King would still be something that you could do in CCPD. Car wash, auctions, laundry, commercial recreation, including driving ranges, miniature golf, skating rinks, post office, transportation terminals, wholesale and warehousing, vehicle sales and services, and it's a very short presentation. I'm right on my. We do find it consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations, and our recommended motion is to forward a recommendation to the City Commission to adopt. And again, just reiterating, just so it's time, date certain, and clear on the record, if forwarded to the City Commission, will be heard for first reading on September 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. That completes my presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Clay, you want to make a presentation? Just break up the cycle.
You know, I didn't have an agenda, and I kept thinking I was next, and I was never next until now. So
Yeah, we saved
the best for last, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome your new planning director. By the way, I worked with her for several years when she was at Levy County. I think you're going to be very happy, and I was encouraging her to know that Newberry is a great place to work. So I just want to make a few comments. I don't have a PowerPoint. I'm Clay Swager. I just put this rezoning application together for the property owner. To go from CI, the commercial intensive, to CBD. So as John Paul mentioned, it's a down zoning, if you will. It's a de-intensification. It takes some of the more heavier auto-related uses off the table. It's consistent with the commercial land use pattern in the comp plan along that corridor. It does allow some more flexibility on the parking requirements, candidly. The property owner would like to redevelop property. It's the old... known as the old Barnett Bank building. Barnett Bank hasn't been business
30 years.
in 30 years. But yeah, it sounds like it's about time to maybe see some redevelopment. So they're excited to bring something forward. It'll allow more flexibility, and in turn, it'll have a more compatible zoning with the neighborhood to the east. And there's still parking requirements that apply, and there's also parking on the street there along State Road 41, 45. So those are the comments I want to make. This will allow redevelopment in the CRA area, and we would greatly appreciate your recommendation of approval.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. I move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this tonight, you have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none, we will move to, staff, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Okay. Members of the making body, do you have any questions for staff or the applicant? I only have one. Claire, are we dealing with owners who are looking to redevelop and sell, or they want to bring in their own business?
They want to, I'm sorry.
The city was very interested in that spot for a potential police department at some point in time. I think when we were trying to reach out, we couldn't quite get through to anybody. Maybe they just purchased it, or maybe these are brand new owners. I can't remember. It's been a couple of years now. So if that's an opportunity, I think we would appreciate having the conversation. There's been no decision made as to a final location, but that was one of trying to cluster our first responders. So if the owners are looking to rezone it, higher use, and then turn around and flip it, I think the city would appreciate being right of first refusal to have that conversation.
Sure. Well, Mr. Mayor, I would say that the current property owner does want to redevelop the property himself. And
Has he ever built a police department before?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But, we're not here with a site plan or redevelopment yet,
Yeah.
so nothing is
And
formal,
if you
but
could help,
that's the
bridge that conversation,
Sure.
it may be a dead end, but before it's too late, too late.
Sure.
All right, that was my only question. Actually, had nothing to do with quasi, but yeah. Right. I thought it was a good spot too. We just hit a dead end. Okay. Would you like to make a final argument? Would you like to make a final argument? All right. We'll enter into deliberation. Our new deliberations. I'll have a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve from Board Member Urchin. Second, Board Member Parker. Any comments, questions, motions, floor from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Topics for member discussion, Board Member Parker.
A reminder that September 21st, on Saturday, there will be the 50s Fest put on by the Main Street organization downtown. So we like to see as many people as we can come out, support some of the local vendors, meet some of your neighbors, and some of the people behind what happens in your city.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Pollard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to share that this coming Thursday, August 29th, is my last day at the Chamber of Commerce.
Congratulations. We're sad, but
Yeah.
we're excited.
I'm excited. I have taken the position of Senior Marketing Manager for the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery. So I've gone from a regional membership engagement organization to a national one, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share that. The other thing that I wanted to remind everybody is that the Newberry High School boys and girls lacrosse teams are looking for sponsors. We will promote your business shamelessly. So please consider, I'll design your banners for you, whatever you need. Please consider supporting the Newberry boys lacrosse team.
How do people?
And girls, sorry, girls. Sorry, Audrey.
Whole lacrosse program, yeah.
Whole lacrosse program.
How do people that want to, how do they go about it? Is there a Facebook page? Is there an email? Is there a booster club?
There is a booster club. We do have a public Facebook page as well. Members interested in it in the community can always reach out to me directly. I'm glad to provide my contact information
All right,
wherever that may be.
sounds good. Board Member Long?
Well, congratulations, but I have nothing else.
Board Member Urchin?
Congratulations. I do want to say thank you to our great citizens. It seems like even though the stress of back to school has hit us in full force, surprisingly, so far this year, we've only had one complaint on the forums about the traffic. I think we're all, I don't know if it's because it's just a hopeless cause at this point. We just gave up. Hands up in the air. Yeah. But I do want to.
We never give up in Newberry. Never give up.
I just want to remind everybody, just continue your patience. We're all going through the growing pains and working on resolutions, hopefully sooner than later. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Congratulations. That's very exciting. I want to thank the staff. We made it through 11 agenda items tonight and 6 or 7 quasi-judicials in 2 hours. I mean, that's great. And I just want to appreciate everyone who showed up tonight and was on their best behavior and was very civil. I appreciate that very much. And public comment. Hearing none, we are adjourned.